Just need to get my iPad real quick. Thank y'all for coming. We do these every single month here, and then we also have a breakfast meetup that we've been doing in Washington, D.C. That is the first Tuesday of every month, but not next month. We are not doing that one next month. We've got a training to attend. But yeah, so thank you guys for coming. I'm Cassidy Burns. You're here with BPG Residential, Property Management, AVEC Construction, and Holdings. We do sales, property management, construction, and then also asset management and syndications. But we do these so you guys can learn, and more importantly, so you guys can meet individuals that are actively doing business in the markets that you want to do business. So we always, before we start, we like to go over who is in the room. Who here is actively doing flips, fixing flips projects? No? Who here is doing wholesaling? No wholesalers. All right, so everybody's buying stuff on market today. Who here is doing long-term buy and hold properties? Raise your hand. All right, raise them high so people can see. Who's doing short-term rentals? All right, so you have the short-term rental people here. Who here is in the lending business? Lenders here. Anybody in title? No. Construction. Anything else? All right, so as you can see, this is a diverse room. There's individuals that are doing everything in the sector, right? Make sure that you remember who raised their hand. Don't leave here. Reach out to them. Start doing business with them actively. Multifamily. Who's doing multifamily? Yeah, sorry, I didn't ask that one. All right, yeah, so multifamily stuff too. So make sure that you are connecting with the individuals. We don't want you to just come here and then leave. We want you to come here, take the information, and then be able to apply it and do it with the individuals that are here actively in the market. So today what we're talking about is how to buy a small multifamily. We're going to do some numbers. I want this to be interactive. I'm going to give you some terms. Some terms you may know, some terms you may not know. We're going to go over how to do it with low money down financing, but then also because it's a little bit of a smaller group, we can also go over how to just buy a small multifamily using investment products as well. So thanks for coming. Let's get started. And it's not working. Great. All right. So when I say low money down, what am I talking about? What are ways that you can buy property with low money down? Show me a few.
Primary residence.
Primary residence, right? What else? What's the next one?
VA loan.
VA loan, right?
FHA.
FHA. There's one more. It does not revolve around financing, traditional financing. Seller financing, right? So those are the four ways that you can buy property with low money down unless you inherit it, right? FHA, conventional, primary residence, VA, primary residence, and then seller financing, right? So we're going to be talking a lot about the FHA because we're in the DMV market, and small multifamily prices in the DMV market are extremely high, right? We're going to go over what our high balance conforming loan limits, and we have our two lenders that can also answer some questions for us as we go. So FHA, right? Freddie, Fannie, who knows what the percentage down that you can put with an FHA loan is for a primary residence buying a small multifamily? You said 3? Any other guesses? It's not a lender. You know?
Is it 5?
5 is a conventional. You can put 5. It's 3.5. FHA you can put as low as 3.5% down on a primary residence. So 2 things that you need to know with FHA. PMI and the self-sufficiency test. What is PMI? It's up here. Property mortgage insurance or private mortgage insurance, right? Depending on if it's conventional or FHA. So PMI is going to be 1 to 1.25% of your loan amount. This is the insurance that the bank is saying, hey, we're going to give you 96.5% of the money to buy the house. We're going to take a little bit off the top to make sure that we are protected. PMI, private or property mortgage insurance. Self-sufficiency test. Who knows the self-sufficiency test? No? And what units? I'm going to have one of my agents answer this. What asset of small multifamily does it apply to? Come on, guys. Don't make me talk the whole time. Michael?
Self-sufficiency test in this for multifamily would be 2 to 4 units.
Well, it's actually not 2. It's 3 to 4. So it's for triplexes and quadplexes. Right? Self-sufficiency test is for triplexes and quadplexes. And what this rule says, and the lenders can hone in on this a little bit, but the rule says that 75% of your income must be collected by the remaining of the units, not including the unit that you are currently living in, right? So if you have a triplex, 2 of them have to accumulate to 75% of that debt service. If you have a quadplex, 75 has to be accumulated by 3, correct? The issue with this, it is very, very hard to find assets that actually hit the rental income in the DMV for the 3 and 4 units. I've been trying to buy one for 4 to 5 years while I was living in DC, and I could not make one work. That is why I went with the duplex. And we're going to concentrate on the duplex because I believe it's the best asset class in the DMV right now. All right, FHA benefits. Higher DTI, debt to income. This is essentially saying my expenses are X, my income is Y. I'm going to take Y minus X and then divide that by our percentage. FHA typically can do 48 to 51%. There are some leniencies there, but for number's sake, 48 to 51% DTI. So if you make $10,000 a month and you have $0 in debt, they will approve you for 50%, $5,000 a month, right? Conventional is going to be 42, sometimes 45%. Right, so conventional is going to be a little bit harder. We're going to talk about why I'm talking mostly about FHA with the small multifamily a little bit later. FHA benefits as well, lower credit score requirement, right? You can buy something with a 680 credit score and the rates will not be as significantly high. Again, talk to your lenders. Potential construction costs rolled into the loan. This is a 203K loan product, which means that you could buy a small multifamily, get a bid, and have to have an estimate from a contractor beforehand. They'll probably have to have a contract executed. And you can roll those costs into your loan. This is how you do the BRRRR strategy without having to front all the costs for the construction, because you can roll them into that loan. You'll do a refinance on the back end. Hopefully your ARV is going to be higher, right? We're not going to buy stuff that putting too much money into it. We're not making equity profit. Higher conforming loan limits. We're going to go to those as well. And use of the projected rental income. So one thing that's very important with these small multifamilies, if you have a duplex and the mortgage is going to be $10,000 a month. If you go off of the 50% DTI, how much a month do you have to make or have to have for your DTI to buy a $10,000 a month mortgage? No. How much do you have to make? 20. You have to make $20,000 to get approved at a 50% DTI for a $10,000 a month mortgage, for number's sake, right? Now, if that duplex has rental income in the basement, it has a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom legal unit, they will take 75% of that rent. So if you have a lease in place for $2,000, 75% is what? $1,500, right? So now that $10,000, you'll deduct the $1,500. So actually now you only have to get approved for that $8,500, right? Very, very beneficial and critical for most individuals that are wanting to buy this asset class. Right? Some restrictions, self-sufficiency test, we talked about that. Limited to 1 per borrower. There are some workarounds, but typically you can only have 1 FHA in your loan and in your name personally, unless the only way to get rid of an FHA is what? How do you get rid of an FHA loan? Refinance into a conventional product or an investment product. But to do that has to be a significant amount of equity, because the reason that you probably use the FHA because there wasn't enough equity, right? Or the conforming loan balance was too high. So higher PMI, less competitive offer. When you go to a seller and say, hey, we have an FHA that we're going to be bringing 3.5% down, they're going to be like, can you actually afford this? The bank's bringing 96.5%. You're only bringing 3.5%. Can you actually perform on the loan and on a contract? Cool. All right. So these numbers, and I would take a picture of this if this interests you at all, are extremely, extremely important. Right? These are the conforming loan limits, meaning that at the top you see single, duplex, triplex, quadplex. High balance conforming areas with the FHA, you can buy a duplex with a loan of 1.472250. I'm going to say that again. You can buy a duplex with a loan of 1.472250. And all you have to do is bring 3.5% down of that. Actually, that can be your loan amount. So you can actually, to know how much you have to bring down, who's got a calculator?
Gotcha.
1.472250 times 1.035.
1.525.
So you can go up to an offer price of 1.5 million on a duplex in the DMV area, right? This is, to me, is one of the most valuable things to know, because there's only, I think, how many counties are there that have the high balance?
Those are high balance. Most of the ones right around DC.
But then there's like California, New York.
Yeah.
It's a very, very small group of areas that actually allow you to do this. So we can buy assets with very little money that are worth significantly more than we ever could be approved for in any other area, right? And one thing about this too, what is appreciation based on? The value of the house. It's not based on the money that you brought down, right? And that's how you increase your internal rate of return, which we're going to go over how to find that, how to do that a little bit later. But the appreciation is going to be based on the 1.5 million, not on the 45,000 that you're bringing down for a down payment. We do a lot of stuff in Shenandoah Valley and Central Virginia. Here are the conforming loan limits for that area. So you still can buy a quadplex in the Shenandoah Valley for $1.5 million with 3.5% down. Now, again, you have to live in it. This is not an investment product. It's fraud if you don't live in it. You have to live in these houses to utilize these, and you still have to be qualified, right? And what did we say qualifies you? What are the two terms? I'm gonna start calling out people. Self-sufficiency. So if it's a duplex, you remember self-sufficiency does not apply to duplexes. That self-sufficiency only applies to our triplex and quadplex. Our DTI, right? We still have to be able to qualify for it. Debt to income. And then what else?
Credit score.
Credit score, yes, of course. But then the income coming from the other unit to help us with the DTI. And then the most important part after all of this is eventually the reason that we're all buying real estate is we're hoping that someone else eventually pays for it, right? Unless you're a forever home buyer and you're going to buy something and live in it until you pass away, eventually we need to find a way to have someone else pay for that asset through rents. So we need to understand how to run the rental comps on the assets. Does everybody get that picture of that?
Where can I find the FHA conforming loan limits?
You can message us, or there's a link that we can send you. But there's a county by county for each individual county. I don't know the website. We can
Google.
Yeah, Google. It's probably pretty easy. But if you guys need it, we can get that sent to you. If you're looking at a particular county, right? Again, this is stuff you need to know, even if you're not going to buy here. When you move to somewhere, and maybe you make your moving decisions off of these loan limits as well, right? If you know that you want to live in a certain type of house, and you don't have the equity to bring down from a down payment perspective, go to a high balance conforming loan limit area to be able to put less money down. All right, so I'm going to try to debunk and teach you guys how to analyze these deals for primary residence first. So the metrics that we need to know, and this is why we have the paper too, because we're going to write them down. You have 3 examples on your sheet that eventually you'll have to scan the QR code to look at the photos and some of the metrics. So we need to know purchase price. How much are we going to pay for it, right? Down payment, hopefully it's going to be 3.5% down. Our monthly payment, which is going to be principal, interest, taxes, insurance, in this case, PMI, and we're not going to have condo fees, right? Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and if FHA case, PMI, projected rents. I'm going to give you an app that we use or some different softwares that we use to do back of the napkin math. our living expense, right? You have to live here 365 plus one, right? The seasoning period. There's ways around it. That's completely what lenders cover your ears. There are ways around it, but you need to assume 365 plus one. That's called a seasoning period. The seasoning period is 365 plus one. So our living expenses, can you actually afford the mortgage? And what we're seeing a lot of times right now is that individuals are stretching themselves just to buy a duplex. They're so ramped up in bigger pockets. We all probably know has taught us buy a duplex house hack. For some people's situations, it's not the best option, right? Because you can't afford the living expenses. It doesn't matter if you have rental income downstairs. You have to be able to afford it. Just because the lender approves you for it, if you're really bad at money management, you probably shouldn't buy it, right? So you have to know your living expenses. Cash flow, who knows the formula for cash flow? Cash flow.
Income minus expenses minus debt service.
Yep. So income. That is a commercial individual talking. So it's income minus expenses minus debt service. So debt service is actually just your principal and interest. That's different than your PITI, right? In this case, expenses are counting in taxes and insurance into your expense column if you're looking at your balance sheet and your P&L, right? And looking at cap rates. So cash flow is going to be money in minus money out, right? That is your cash flow. Very easy formula there. One thing we'll talk about here is it's very, very hard right now in this market with 7.5% to 8% to 6.5%. I don't care where it is. It's very hard to make these things cash flow because you're leveraging 96.5% of the $1.5 million asset, right? It's very hard to make cash flow when you leverage 96.5%. The days of the 2016s, 2014 to 2018 are gone. You're not going to buy something and move out and have $500 a door in cash flow. Not in this market, at least. You can go live in Ohio if you'd like to do that. But if you want to have high appreciation, great long-term assets, that strategy doesn't work here. We are here for the long game, and we can give you some suggestions of what I would do if this is the strategy you want to implement and how you can actually pull it off. Next, internal rate of return. The reason I love this strategy is because of leverage and because of debt. That's the reason I love this strategy. Our internal rate of return is a commercial term that you just say, what is my return over the length of owning that asset? What is my return over the length of owning that asset? That includes cash flow, that includes our appreciation, and then eventually our disposition, which is our sale. Cool. All right. So first, I want you guys to all go on your phones, and I'm going to give you 3 different apps that if you want to do some back of the napkin math, that I would suggest downloading. First, if you want to find a pretty decent app that'll get your actual mortgage of what your PITI is going to be, Mortgage Plus app. It is orange
app with a house on it.
Orange with a house on it. Mortgage Plus app. They're all free too. These are all free. I would highly recommend downloading. Second is going to be Deal Check, right? Everybody, you guys know Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets has a calculator. Deal Check calculator is much, much better and shows you projections over the long term. That's free as well. I think it's white, blue, and green with a house. Highly recommend downloading that. And then third, this is how we're going to find our rental comps. That is Rentometer. Rentometer.com. I don't know if they have an app, actually. You might have to go online. They give you 10 free checks, and then you have to pay for it. I think it's $150 for the year. If you are actively analyzing deals and want to know what rents are in the long-term rental space, Rentometer is a good option. Cool. All right. So let's do some deal analysis. So we are going to scan the QR code of this first property. These are 3 properties that are active on the market that I think that would, you guys, if you are looking at this would be something, a good option to maybe buy. You may have to look at all the photos, you may have to put your information in there. So 1625 First Street Northeast. Who's got it up?
1.3 million.
1.3 million. All right. So go ahead and write that down because we're going back to our key metrics. Go back to the key metrics. So we're looking at 1625 First Street. Does anybody have any questions first before we start doing some deal analysis? Am I talking too fast? Stuff that you're not understanding? Who here has done this strategy? Small multifamily.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, 3. Anybody else? 3 people have bought a small multifamily, so that's good people to talk to about how to actually execute this. So, multifamily, we're looking at First Street. Perfect. So purchase price is what? What is our list price? We're going to assume everything is going to go at market. Oh yeah, perfect. Oh, this is perfect. All right, purchase price 1.325. Perfect. Go down so we see the photos. Perfect. All right, so scroll through. Put your. Sorry, guys, I'm still trying to figure out how to properly use this without having all the internet cell abuse.
I don't have Facebook. What is this?
Well, all right, so what was the other one? All right, down payment. What is 3.5% of 1.325? Actually, we're going to assume that we're not going to pay the closing costs, and we're going to roll our closing costs into the loan, right? So we're going to do 1.1325 times 1.03. Who's got a calculator for me?
39,750.
What's the total? What's our total purchase price? That's
1.364,750.
1,364,750. So our purchase price is 1,364,750. The reason that we increased our purchase price and are asking for a seller credit is because you don't have enough money to buy with the down payment and the closing cost. So the only way to buy it is to roll the closing cost into the loan, right? So 1,364,750. What is our down payment? 3.5% of 1,364,750.
47,766.
47,766. All right. So who's got rent-a-meter up? How are we going to find out our rents? What does this property rent for? How do we find it out? You got to go to rent-a-meter, right? You type in the exact address, and it has a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom upstairs, and then a 1-bedroom, 1 bathroom downstairs. You can run the comps on both of them. I'm going to assume, just because I'm one close to this, it's going to be $5,600 a month. We're going to assume the rents are going to be $5,600 a month. All right, but to find the actual rents, we're going to go to rentameter.com, type in the actual address, type in the 3 beds, 2.5 baths, and then we're going to do it the same thing for 1 bedroom, 1 bath. All right, if it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, same exact thing. You do the same exact process. Next, living expenses. How much are we going to live for? Who's got the mortgage plus app? What is my PITI plus my PMI? We're going to assume PMI is 1% of the purchase price of the loan amount. I'm talking way too fast. I can tell you guys are giving me. All right, so does everybody who has the mortgage plus app? No. Sweetheart, purchase price 1.3.
I have it.
Oh, okay. The interest rate is going to be 7.5%. PMI 1%. Taxes are on the listing. Let's assume 7,500. I don't have it in front of me. Pressure.
99.97.
Huh?
10,997.
Does that sound about right? All right. So our mortgage PITI EMI on this property, 10,997. Woo! Right? Woo! It's a lot. So how much does somebody have to make to buy this?
Double that.
Double that, but what did we not calculate in for this?
That's
Rents.
The rents of the basement, right? So we're gonna assume the basement's gonna rent for 1,800. Do the math, yeah. So our total debt service, PITI, PMI that we are responsible for at 1,800 is gonna be $9,197. $9,197. That's what we have to qualify for when we bring this to a lender and say, I love this property, I wanna buy it, I wanna live in it. It's gonna be a great investment. The most important thing is, can you actually afford to buy it? All right. So if you have zero debt, we're gonna assume you have zero debt. How much do you have to make every month if the mortgage is $9,197 at a 50% DTI?
19,000?
Around right under 19,000. It's gonna be 18,400 a month. How much is that income a year?
220-ish.
So let's just do 225. So you have to be a $225,000 income earner to be able to buy this as a primary residence at a 50% DTI. Right. One thing too, I will talk on the living expenses is that if that basement unit goes vacant, you still have to pay the rest of that mortgage, by the way. Right. Again, do you feel comfortable with buying that asset?
Don't let you qualify at 50% DTI.
I'm an FHA 51. Yeah, FHA 51.
Mm-hmm.
You can go higher. Yeah, it's like there's certain programs that can go higher. It's probably based on credit score, your ability. Yep.
Are bonuses included in your income?
Bonuses included in your income.
Can be. Depends. Yeah, we had it for 2 years and we average it. So,
Gotcha.
if you got a $100,000 bonus the year before, then $125,000 bonus, we can give you 112. Get it towards it.
Assuming you're in that same job.
Yeah, have a history of bonus income.
Gotcha. At the same job.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
If
gonna
it was a previous job, but you're still getting bonus income, yeah, as long as it wasn't a signing bonus. It's a little tricky.
Yeah.
But yeah, annual bonuses, you have a history of them, sure.
Do you have a question? No. Anybody have any questions on this so far? This is a lot, right? It's a lot of money. Go back to the yeah. So what's our cash flow on this after you move out? It's going to even hurt to say it out loud. Remember, our projected rent for $5,600. We're losing $5,000 a month. You know, that's what interest rates do. That's how they negatively affect, right? The purchase price, 1.4, 1.2. Doesn't really affect it. That interest rate on that debt, because you're borrowing 96.5%, is significant, right? So what is the strategy here? So you want this property. This is a property that you have to have. You know it's going to work. You actually make $225. You make $18,400 a month on a consistent basis. So you actually can afford to pay for that. It's a consistent income. It's not commission income like our income, right? You know every single month you're getting $18,400. But what's the strategy when you want to move out? What do we have to wait and what we have to do to be able to execute the strategy?
Refinance?
Yeah, the refinance. You have to, or in my personal opinion, you have to figure out a way to put your equity position where you can put it into a new debt, right? Because the one thing is our loan amount was what? Around 1.3. Like, let's say 1.3, go back to our conforming loan limits. Here it is. So if we wanted to refinance into a conventional product, we're going to have our equity position down at that 981.5, correct? In this area.
You can go high bow as long as you have 5%.
5%. So if we have a 3.5% FHA, if I wanted to refinance my 1.3, just say you're going to live in it for 2 years, so it'll be 1.25.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll be able to refi
The 5% equity in it. You can go conventional at the high.
at the high bow loan. Okay, did everybody hear that? Does that make sense? Say that one more time.
Yeah. If you have a 5% equity position in the property, you can go up to that high val limit. If you're less than 5% for a conventional product, you have to stay below those bottom ones, even though we're in a high val area. But once you get past 5%, you can go up to the high val.
So that's really good to know. I didn't know that. So you can refi. This is something good, but the interest rates are conversation, right? One, your perfect scenario is you live there for 365, or maybe you love the house. You live there for 5 years, and then rates are gonna come down a little bit. They're gonna even out. You're gonna be able to refinance to decrease that monthly payment to put you in a hopefully break-even proposition. Hopefully, right? Get that payment down for $5,000 a month is gonna be a significant rate drop. I'd probably say 4%. 3.5%. I don't know if that's going to happen. So we have to realize that we may have to carry some of that note. You have to answer that question for yourself, right? So the option here is to try to refinance and or refi into a conforming 5% equity position. You should have that because of appreciation and the equity pay down that you're doing, or you can just bring a little bit of cash to the table or pay down that balance a little bit more to get out of that into a conventional. Why would you want to get into a conventional?
No PMI.
You still have PMI up to 20%,
That's
but PMI falls off on conventional. That's one thing with FHA. FHA does not fall off. PMI is forever. I have 2 FHA loans. Yes, I said you can only do one, but I figured it out. I have 2 FHA loans that I still have them in FHA. So they are going to have PMI forever. They will have PMI forever. My interest rate is so low that there is no financial, it makes no financial sense for me to refi into a conventional at all. Right? So the reason that you would refi is to get rid of PMI and to free up your FHA loan again so you can do it again. Right? If you want to keep doing this small multifamily.
I've got a question.
Yeah,
Can you get a co-borrower on a FHA loan to help qualify?
Yes. Is it a partner or is it a co-signer? What's the?
Either way.
Yeah. So as long as the other individual does not have an FHA loan, correct?
Okay.
Right. So if you have, sometimes the strategy is you have husband, wife. First time the husband buys with FHA, next time the wife buys with FHA. Now you have 2 FHAs. You refinance out of one, and you can just keep.
He's got an FHA, but I don't.
Got it. So you could figure it out and then still be able to qualify, correct? With just one FHA, no FHA. Okay, that's a good question. Good question. All right, let's go to the next one, Columbia Road. So, moral of the story, this one's going to be very, very tough. I think this is a long-term, the buy one, the 1.3 million, that's a long-term purchase. You need to be planning to be there 3, 5, 7, 10 years.
How do you calculate the IRR?
Yes, we're going to, okay, good question. Let me get a better example because that IRR is going to be dog shit. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to go over the IRR though, but that one is so bad that it's just not worth doing. Okay, so this one, Columbia Road, $1 million, right? So now this is $300,000 cheaper. Obviously, we know this meets our conforming loan balance, right? We can go today and buy this with 3.5% down. So let's analyze the deal. Purchase price. Remember, we're going to roll our closing costs into the loan. Purchase price is going to be $99999 million times 1.03. So we're going to offer, if it's so competitive that we're not going to get any discount, we're going to offer 1.03 million, right? $1,030,000. It's going to be our offer price. Our down payment is going to be 3.5% of that. It's got a calculator. Should be about 36,000, right? 37,000.
36,050.
Who has $36,000? You can figure out a way to do this, right? If you can't figure out 36 grand, we have a earning problem or a saving problem, right? We have to address that first. And that's the thing too. I'm not teaching you how to buy something $0. You need to have some type of money. Down payment, and I also depend on where you're at in your investing career, reserves, right? So our down payment is $37,000, a lot more affordable than the other one, right? The last one would be 45, 48. Go back to that. What's the bed bath count? Okay, yeah. So we have upstairs is going to be a 3, 2.5. Downstairs is a 1, 1. So 3 bed, 2.5 bath up. 1-1 down, right? That's pretty standard in the city, especially because most of the city duplexes are going to be 1/1 or 2/2s, right? So, or 3/1s, depending on how it's cut up. In Northern Virginia, there's not many duplexes, but there are some side-by-side duplexes where you have a 2-1 that are connected. To make it a legal duplex, has to have 2 C of Os, has to be separately metered, and the appraiser, when you go to get the loan, has to say that it is a duplex. If they say it is a single family with an in-law suite, these guys are not going to be able to loan to it. Has to be a duplex. Now, conventional just changed the rule where they'll do it on an in-law, right? If it's not legal and it has some type of, we need the appraiser to say duplex. So whoever your agent is that's representing you, they need to call that guy and show them comps and show them that this actually has it's separately metered and it has a C of O and can get a BBL in DC or just a business license. And yeah, so yes. You're laughing, I get it. Yeah, BBL is what she was laughing at. So what's our rents? 3.5 up, 1 down. What's the property going to rent for? Who's got renovator?
1-1's around 2.
1-1 is 2,000. What's the 3-1? 3.5.
3.5.
Probably 39.
37.
37. So this one's going to rent for the exact same as the last one. So 5,700 is our rent for this one. All right. Now, go back. What's our monthly payment? Sweetheart. $1,030,000 purchase price, 7.5% interest rate. Oh, you have it. So, you have 8,500. Is that with the PMI? Right. Let's just do it. You guys aren't helping me out up here. 8,500 a month is our mortgage payment. All right, a little bit more affordable. So, what's our next formula that we have to execute on?
We're going to qualify for it?
Yeah.
We're going to qualify for it?
What are we going to qualify for, right? So how do we figure that out? Monthly payment minus 75% of our rent in the basement. Our rent in the basement's $2,000. 75% of that's $1,500. Our monthly payment's $8,500. 8,500 minus 1,500 is going to be $6,000 a month. It's a lot more affordable than our last one, right? So you have to now qualify at a 50% DTI for $6,000 a month. Assume you have no debt. How much you have to make on this one? 144, which is what a month? 12,000 a month. Is everybody getting kind of the gist of it of how to analyze these?
Why does it have to be the lower unit?
Yes. So good question. When the bank is looking at you, when the underwriter, these guys are not the ones that are doing it. It's the underwriter on the bank. If they say, okay, Emily and Dan are coming from a 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, are they really going to actually go live in a 1-1? They don't believe that you will. There are ways around it to push it around and say, I'm going to live in the basement. We want to reduce our expenses. You might have to write a letter. These guys are going to have to go and go in front of a board to convince them. But in most cases, they're going to say, we don't believe that you're actually going to live in the basement because you have 2 kids. Right now, if you're a single guy, girl that's buying their first house, maybe believable, right? You can go and live in there, but just know if you don't, it's fraud. I want to reiterate that. If you don't, it's fraud, right? I don't want to know if you're doing it. If you're doing it, that's fine. These guys don't want to know either, but it is fraud. If you get caught, there are consequences. So if you say you're going to live in it, you should probably live in it. If you say you're going to live in a particular unit, you should probably do that as well, right? So let's go over that equation. So the rent up.
Sorry, guys, I got to go back because she's going to hopefully agree with me on that. Tell us everything, and then our job is to make a case to the underwriter and get you this money. Don't lie to us, right?
Okay.
Tell us everything.
That's a good lease.
The
Yeah.
top portion.
Got it,
We
okay.
could use that.
Yeah.
That would definitely be your.
But is it in place? Like, so there's so many different ways to get around it. Yeah.
Talk to us, get one of us on the phone and give us all of the information. We're gonna try to put together the nice, neat little package with a bow
Yeah.
to the underwriter to make that case for you. Right, that's our job as lenders, as loan officers.
We live in Florida. I have a client right now that lives in Florida, wants to keep the property in Florida, wants to move here, right? You don't want to sell the property, but it hurts your DTI. You can also take 75% of that projected rent, and or in most cases, they do require you to have a lease in place for them to qualify you,
It's security deposit.
and a security deposit. First month's rent too.
First official.
Did you guys hear that? So if you guys want to move, so that if you guys want to move and you have a property outside of the state, you're going to have to pre-market it, receive security deposit and first month's rent. All right. Again, you have a buddy that signs your lease. I'm telling you to do this. I'm telling you people do it. You have a buddy that signs a lease. He's going to have to send you security deposit and first month's rent. That happens.
But would you still qualify for an FHA loan here?
As long as it's not an FHA product, correct? Yep. Good. All right, let's keep going. 6,000 a month, 6,000 a month, qualify. 12,000 a month is how much you have to make. Living expenses. So really, while we're living here, our mortgage is 8,500. Our rent is 2,000. Wait, did I do that math wrong? It's 7,000 a month. Sorry. You have to make $14,000 a month to buy this. I did 8,500 minus 1,500 is not 6,000. So, anyways, going back, 8,500 a month is your mortgage payment. The rent is 2,000. So you have to be able to afford $6,500 a month. Right? That is how much you're going to be responsible for every single month to live there. $6,500 is a decent monthly payment in the DMV area.
$1 house.
Right, yeah. So, cool. All right, last thing. So that's your living expense. Now I want to teach you guys how to find internal rate of return and how I analyze internal rate of return on these primary residences. It's very complicated and it changes based on how long. Like if you live there for longer than a year, this does not work. I'm going to teach you how to do it for just 365. Now, if you do it for 2 years, there's additional formulas, and that will require Excel. You can also use Excel as for this. So, what we're going to do is we are going to assume that we are moving out on day 366. All right? We're going to assume that we are moving out on day 366. So, our mortgage is how much? $8,500. So, if we're assuming that we're going to live there, that we're moving out 366, we're not going to be able to refinance. In a perfect world, in the perfect situation, you live there for 364. But then again, you're still, yeah. So in a perfect situation, you live there for 364. You're going to refinance because the rates have dropped. You refinance it, and it's appreciated. So after you refinance, you're going to go open a home equity line of credit at 99% LTV. You have that forever, and then you're going to move out. Very hard to do. Usually time is our biggest asset there. You have to have time, but that's the perfect. Refi into low rate, not FHA, so now your FHA is free. Once you live there again, you can apply for a 99% LTV home equity line of credit. All right, hopefully it's appreciated. You already have the equity pay down. Now you have access to that capital for the next 10 years, and then you move out. Very hard to do. Perfect situation. So internal rate of return if you do not refinance. $8,500, right? So typically, when we have an FHA loan with 3.5% down, 25% of that $8,500 is going to be going towards our principal pay down every single month. All right. On our amortization schedule, when you sign on the dotted line, they're going to give you a paper that's got 360 months. That's what we're going to be using here. So 8,500 times 25%. What is that?
21, 25.
Well, that's going to be really high. But just for this number, we're going to use that. It's going to be significantly less, but we're going to use it. So does everybody understand what I'm doing here? I'm going to find how much equity every single month is going to be paid down on the principal, right? Look at your amortization schedule if you want to know the real numbers. I like to use 25%. It's probably lower because interest rates are so high right now. Probably even use 15. So $2,125 a month. Every month is going to go into equity into the home. Simply because we're making payments on our mortgage. How much is that a year? Multiply that by 12. 2125 times 12. 25,500. Perfect. All right. So equity gain for owning this house every single year is going to be 25,500. All right. Now, we bought this house for $1,030,000. What did I say at the beginning about appreciation? It's based on what? You guys have a question. The value of the house, not the down payment, right? So your down payment was $36,000, but the appreciation, and we're going to assume 3% for numbers, right? If you want to be safe, be safe. If you want to shoot for the stars, shoot for the stars. It's all speculation that we're doing right now. It's all speculation. You'll never know how much it appreciated until the next year, right? We have different platforms that you can get and say, hey, the actual value of the house is, and you actually never know how much it appreciated until somebody else bought the actual value of the house is. So $1,030,000 is what we bought it for. We're going to assume 3% appreciation. At day 366, assuming 3% appreciation, what is the value of our house now? Do $1,030,000 times 1.03. Does everybody understand that? Appreciates by 3%. You're going to base it on the value currently at day 1, which is $1,030,000. We're assuming that you came in at $1,030,000. Day 12 plus 1, 12 months plus a day, it's going to be $1,030,000 times 1.03, which is what?
1.0609.
1.69.
060
1.069. Got it. So the value at 366 is $1,060,900. Right? How much appreciation did we see over that year? 31,000. $31,000 of appreciation. All right? That's pretty good. That's the down payment that you put, right? That's why leverage is so important. You use debt. The appreciation is based on the value of the house, not on the down payment. Last thing, what's our cash flow? All right? Our cash flow was $5,700. Was our rent $5,700? Our mortgage is $85,000. This is why you have to refinance, but we are going to do it anyways. $2,800 a month. That is not profit. It is a loss. All right. So we need to calculate this as well. What's 2,800 times 12? How much cash flow are we losing the first year? 33.6. Does everybody understand that? For this example, we're not gonna, and this is the one thing too, you have to understand, you're not buying an investment property. You're not buying an investment property. You're not putting 20 to 25% down. The days of trying to assume 5% vacancy, 5% repairs, 5% maintenance, 10% property management are gone. That's 25% of your total income gone. When you're leveraging 96.5%, you can't do that, right? Just know that if you use those formulas, it will not work. That's why I concentrate on the internal rate of return on primary residences, just like we do our multifamily. So let's find out how much money we made over the year. So what was our equity pay down for the year?
25.5.
Principal. What was our appreciation? 31. What was our cash flow? Here. 33.6. What is that number? What's 25.5 plus 31 minus 33.6? 22,900. Right? So, hypothetically, based on the income earned and the expenses paid, at year 12, at year 2, I guess technically we should have done the appreciation based on year 2 because we're not going to be living there. You're going to do $22,900 because we only live there for 12 months. Our down payment, because that's how much cash we put into it. And if you really want to get in the nitty gritty, actually, let's do it. We'll do that. Time. So 22,000 divided by your down payment is what? Your down payment was what? What was the down payment? 37. 37. And what you're going to calculate. 22,000 divided by 37.
618.9.
Yep. So your internal rate of return on that is 61%. Right? Over those 12 months, you made a 61% return on the money that you invested, right? Just on the down payment. The one thing that we didn't calculate was how much we actually paid into it while we were living there. Let's do that. Our rent was $2,000. That in the basement. 6,500 times 12. 6,500 times 12. 78,000. So now we're going to do. Is everybody following with that? Okay. So now I'm calculating for the previous 12 months. We still paid money. It came out of our pocket, right? So we put 8,500 was our mortgage. The basement was rented for 2,000. So that means that we actually paid out of pocket 6,500. That came out of our pocket, right? Money came in as my job. I paid 6,500. 6,500 times 12 months is 78,000. That's how much we paid out of pocket to own that house, right? Now, our total cash out of pocket for the down payment was 37,000 plus 78,000. So 37 plus 78. What is it? Divided by 115. So now 115,000. So that's total profit made, which is our appreciation, equity pay down, and cash flow. We lost money on the cash flow, divided by our total money deposited out of pocket. What is that number?
19.9.
19.9. So your total internal rate of return for the year that you own that house, that duplex, is 19.9 for the first year. So, are the numbers great on these? No. Do they work right now? Not really. Right? You have to wait. If you really, really want to make this work, you're going to have to buy a duplex, live in it, go back. Be able to afford the living expenses while you're living there. It may be 2 years, it may be 3 years, it may be 5. Once the rates drop, you refinance and then you pull it out. And you can figure out how many you've owned it for 60 months. You can do the same exact thing. The key and the reason that this is so high is 19.9 is going to beat the market, right? It's going to beat anything that you're going to buy from an investment product right now. You're not going to get 19.9% internal rate of return buying an individual house. Because of what? What were we able to take advantage of? Leverage, debt. That's the beauty of this, right? Questions? I'm kind of over time.
Just write off taxes on the rental and the business.
Yes, you were. Yeah. So, and that's one thing we didn't even calculate in here is the tax benefits. So obviously last month we had an accountant come in and talk about being a real estate professional status for being a real estate professional status, and then
It was like actively involved.
active, like an active person. Different. So you'll be able to take those expenses, yes, on your tax returns, on the percentage of the building. That is an investment, right? There's other ways that you can take. If you work from home, you can take a percentage of the place that you live in too. So we did not even include the taxes and the tax benefits of owning the basement. Questions, thoughts, concerns on this? It's a great strategy. It's very hard to execute right now. I think right now the best option to do is to buy a single family house and then rent out a basement for a little bit lower cost basis. This is an example, and I can go if you want to talk about this. I'm gonna let you guys go, but this is a house that I did this same exact strategy on. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms upstairs. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom downstairs. Currently, now this is why timing is the most important thing. My interest rate on this is 2.5%. So I still have an FHA loan on this. This was the last time I was able to execute this strategy because I can't refinance out of that FHA, right? So this is just a marketing video. So 2.5% on that. My current mortgage on that property is $5,100 and it's currently rented for $5,350. So I actually make $200 a month. $200 a month does not change my life at all. I could care less about that. What I care about is how I was able to execute on the equity. So I rehabbed I tried to turn it into an Airbnb. It was not successful on it. But I rehabbed the kitchen and then got a new appraisal. So I bought it for $854. So $881, 3% seller credit. I did the same exact thing that I'm telling you guys to do. $881, 3% seller credit. 3.5% down, which is what, $30,000. I renovated the kitchen. That is not the kitchen now. I painted the cabinets blue and new appliance package and stuff. I got a new appraisal for $970,000. So I put 10 grand into it, and the value increased by. I thought it was worth 1.1, but when you do a refinance, appraisers are a little bit more stingy, giving you actual value. So just know if you're trying to execute the burr, build that contingency in there. Appraisers are not your friend on the refi. So, anyways, before I moved out,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just curious why STR didn't work for you.
well, yeah, because DC banned it.
Oh, because the
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, regulations. Yeah. I was making a lot. I was doing really well on it.
On the refinance, then, so, your rents, that counts for 75, you get to count 75% of that rent against, for your DTI, is that how that works? So like.
When you're doing a refi, I guess you still have to qualify for that mortgage, because you're putting it into a conventional loan that is still. Yes, they will. Got it.
So the rents, they take your basically income, and then whatever rent you're taking, you can take 75% of whatever rent.
Yeah, you're gonna have a history of it now to be able to use.
But remember, you're not refinancing into an investment property.
Right.
I'm still refinancing into a primary residence and living there for a little bit more time afterwards, and then I'm moving out. Does that answer your question? Cool. And then the last strategy of this is, so this thing now makes me $200 a month, but I got a 99% LTV home equity line of credit on this. So I now have a bank account that is associated with this property with access to $116,000 that I use to buy investments. I put $30,000 down on this property, right? So $30,000 gave me access to 116 and whatever it's worth now from a net worth perspective. Any other questions before I let you guys go? And if you have to go, please leave. Don't feel rude.
To do the IRR calc for more than just a year, is it just expanding the amount of, like, you need Excel, it's just more?
Correct. The Excel is more months. It's based on the monthly. It's based on the monthly. How long? We have. Anything else? Questions, concerns? We'll be around hanging out. We do open networking again, so if you have questions, please ask one of us. Thanks for coming. Hopefully, we'll see you next month. We don't know what the topic is, but hopefully, we'll be adding some value to you guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.